Alright, this batch is part of an ongoing series of a project I'm working on. It's not part of the auction, and I'm doing some of this off camera, but I'm going to try to get most of it on camera. Alright, so I made already some concave based points, triangular points with a concave base that look a lot like Madison points. I'm going to switch over to a different type now. And let's see. I need to pick a good piece. I can expect some reasonably good results. I was just working on this one. This one pressure flakes really easily. But I'm developing a curve in it, and I think in the process of taking out that curve, I might snap it. So I'm going to pick a different one. Or should I just pick a flake? Maybe some of you want to see flake to point, right? But this is part of an ongoing series of this project I'm working on. Okay. And eventually when I get around to making a playlist, I'll put these together. And they're not labeled part 1 or part 2, part 3. It's one of the few series that I did not label part 1, part 2, part 3, etc. And I looked back, and I'm not going to do that. I think a lot of times it gets confusing which one is part 1, which one's part 2, because there's so many different series. Yeah, I just need to get these into playlists. I haven't done my playlists that are on my to-do list. I have a to-do list to make playlists. Yeah. Yeah, I gotta make a playlist of all the yapping videos for the whole year. For this last year, and then for the year before. And I gotta make playlists for all my silent videos and playlists for all my abo videos. Those are going to be big playlists, and then I'll do sub playlists for the different parts in various series. I'll probably have a big playlist for all my auctions too. I don't know why you would want to do a marathon of watching all the auctions, but it's possible that someone could be interested in that. What is this material? This is a hornstone. As far as I know, I was told this is hornstone, but it could be something else. That is similar, but hornstone usually has little sparkles in it, or what looks like glitter. Right? Many times, Sonora has the same thing. Has little sparklies in it. This is not Sonora, though. I've been told it's hornstone. I've napped really, really good, high-quality hornstone, and that is either my favorite or in the top 3 of the stones I like to nap. I like to nap high quality hornstone. Oh yes. It's one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Why? Because it has all the characteristics that make something nice to nap. I gotta be careful with the length on this one. I gotta keep them at 2 inches. I'll try to do a little bit more than 2. Yeah, I can only lose about 1/8 of an inch. I'm trying to keep these all within a certain size. Anyway, hornstone is one of my favorites, or the favorite, because it has a lot of good characteristics that I like. it has a good feel to it. That's always a positive. If I'm working with something that feels not so great, like rough and dry, and the edges don't sharpen up all that well, it's not my favorite, even though it might nap extremely easily. You know, you can run long flakes. Easy to nap means able to run long flakes. In a nutshell, easy to nap means the ability to run long flakes on the material. This has nothing to do with skill. Right? It takes skill to run long flakes. You can run long flakes on bad material also. That's skill. But as far as the ease of running long flakes, like right there, that big old long flake there, on a material like glass, it's easy, relatively speaking, to run long flakes on glass. It's a good material. High quality hornstone lends itself to the long flake thing. And it's something that new nappers have a hard time with, knowing what is good stone and what is not, because they can't run long flakes to begin with. They don't even know how to run long flakes, even on good material. So you tell them something like that, what's good stone? Well, the stuff you can run long flakes on. You go, well, I can't run long flakes on anything, so how do I know it's good? And that's an excellent point. And the answer is, you don't know what's good. You have to have some experience to know what's good. Yeah. And new nappers are some of the most insistent people on, I shouldn't say insistent, but they're some of the most demanding people when it comes to stone quality. They want to know right away, how do I obtain or assess or grade the stone? How do I obtain stone that's good? How do I assess it, if it's good or not? And that sort of thing. Yeah, you can get all wrapped up into that, because that's one of the most frustrating parts of flint napping. But you're not going to be able to do it on your own. So that, just that knowledge that you won't be able to do it on your own helps people. You've got to consult others that are more experienced on what is good stone. You won't be able to do it on your own. And that helps a lot of people. They go, oh, okay, now all right, I get it. I just got to make sure I consult someone who knows what they're talking about. But it's hard, because when you're new, you don't know who knows what they're talking about. Everything is against you. Yeah. Hopefully, I will help you with that challenge. You go back in my older videos and you can see the challenges I had with stone and all the different stones that I've worked. And you can kind of see which ones worked okay and which ones didn't with someone with my experience at that time. You can kind of get the information you want from that. Another way is just knowing the name of the material. Yeah. Although it doesn't help you that much to know the name of the material, but it does help in a way. You know, you can know the name of the material, and you can ask, if you're new, you can ask somebody, all right, I need a high quality hornstone. Do you know anyone that carries it? And they'll say, yeah, I know, blah, blah, blah. Okay, great. And you contact blah, blah, blah. They send you what they call high quality hornstone. You can't do anything with it. It doesn't seem like it's high quality. And guess what? It probably is not. So how do you get a reputable dealer? The only way to get knowledge that's in-depth, in my opinion, is to go to a nap-in And do a lot of chit chat. Don't be shy. Ask around and watch people. Take flakes from debitage. What other nappers are napping. Get what they are napping. Get what the good nappers are napping, and ask them what the good stuff is, and collect their flakes and compare what they say to what the flakes act like when you start napping them. That's going to be your best bet. Go to a nap-in. I'm working on the nap-in list. I'm almost done, right? I worked on it yesterday. I've got one more day to work on it, and I'm going to be working on it, not tonight. It's already getting late. But I will be working on it, and I will most likely post a nap-in update before the end of this week. Like tomorrow night or the night after. Or maybe on Monday night. That's after the end of the week, yeah, I know. But we shall see. I never know when I'm able to get to it because other priorities pop up. But yeah, I'm almost done. There's a lot of nap-ins actually coming up, relatively speaking. There's actually one in February. I need to do it by month. I've got it organized by state, but I need to do it by month as well. Yeah, there's one I was surprised there's one come up in February. There's another. Let's see, what's it, November? I think there's one coming up in November that hasn't passed already. Yeah, so I got to make sure I do the update before that nap-in. We'll see. Anyway, as a new person, you need to go to a nap-in. You really do. I know it's a lot of expense, but you know, if you're really serious about flint napping, then consider it part of your vacation from work. That's what I did. When I still had that 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 job, I had to use vacation time to go to the nap-in, to the nap-ins that were out of town. Vacations or sick days, yeah. That kind of thing. So that's my advice on that. Pick up debitage that other nappers are napping so you can see what they're napping. And you can go, aha, this is what they're napping. So now I can compare what I get in the mail to this stuff that they're napping. Make sure you don't use it all up. You know, you get stuff in the mail, you compare it to what other nappers are napping, and you go, oh, this seller's not that great because this doesn't look like this debitage. The stuff I got in the mail doesn't look like the debitage. It doesn't nap like the debitage that other nappers are napping. So I'm going to move on to a different supplier. You know, and write the name of what the material is on the flakes. If the nappers that are at the nap-in know what the material is called, and you ask around, is it true that this is that material? Yeah, it's the material. You write it on the flakes. And then you ask, well, okay, it's that material, but is this high grade or low grade? And you hand it to them. And they'll go, oh, it's kind of mid-grade. All right, so you write mid-grade Sonora, or low-grade Fort Payne, or high-grade Hornstone on the flakes. And it takes time to write it all down. But if you really want to be serious about it, about knowing these materials, you got to do it. Now, did I do that? No. Because no one told me that's what I should be doing. I kind of figured it out. You know, you can figure it out on your own. It's not that hard to figure that stuff out. You just, you know, you get all excited. You're talking to lots of people. You don't want to sit there and go, let me write down these flakes. Excuse me, I'm going to be in the zone here for about 2 hours writing down, and I'm going to be bugging all of you. What's this called? Is it good? Is it mid-grades, high-grade, low-grade? Where's it from? You can go as extensive as, you know, you write down this is Hornstone, mid-grade from what state. And if you want to get even fancier, you ask who supplies it, and you write down the supplier on that too. So you have a bunch of information on each flake. Or you take a little bag and then, you know, like a little baggie and stick them all in, and then you label the bag. You can get as organized as you want. The more organized you are, the better off you'll be as far as learning how to do this quickly. If you're a spaz like me, it took me a while to learn various things. If I had known to be more organized and that there's variations between stones of the same name, I wouldn't have scratched my head so much. I wouldn't have been so confused in the beginning. Yeah. I don't do that now. I don't write down that much anymore because I just got tired of it. I just say, okay, if it naps, it naps. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Yeah. I don't care. I take it all home and I start napping it, and I can't keep track of it because I lose. With my personality, I will lose a bunch of stuff because I tend to not. I tend to not stay organized. It'll be organized for a few days and then I'll get busy and I'll lose track of stuff. So I don't do it anymore because it's highly stressful. But maybe if I had learned that habit in the beginning, I'd be better at answering questions of whether this is good stuff or not. What's it called? What state does it come from, and who supplies it, if anybody? I should have written all that stuff down and got into the habit, I suppose. But, oh well. Doesn't really matter anymore. But if you don't want to be like me and you don't want to take forever, then you got to get more organized. Yeah, that's the moral of the story. Anyway. Okay, I was reviewing my last video. And I was thinking about bone arrowheads compared to the stone arrowheads. And what do you call the bone arrowheads, if not by the same name as the stone arrowheads that they look like? How do you deal with bone arrowhead types? What does the archaeological literature say about bone arrowhead types? Not much, right? They just say bone arrowheads. Arrowheads of bone. They don't have types for the bone arrowheads, as far as I remember, and in many of the studies that I see. There's only a few that survive because they do deteriorate and they don't survive the decay process, natural decay. So there's usually very few, and what they call them is usually bone arrowheads, or what they're made from, like antler tine arrowheads or leg bone arrowheads or something to that effect. What are they made from? And they don't have a specific type. But if they look like a specific type, especially if they look like a stone type, we should name them the same as the stone type, I would imagine. Just a bone version of the stone type. So there's a very interesting question surrounding how to classify these bone arrowheads. What's the most common type of arrowhead? This is kind of a general quiz related to this subject. What is the most common type as far as material of arrowhead? You guys have been watching the channel for a long time. You know the answer. It's a wooden arrowhead. Just a sharpened end to the shaft. That's the most common by far of any arrowhead, or any dart point, blowgun dart or atlatl dart, or spear, or any type of projectile weapon or handheld weapon or thrusting weapon. It's just a sharpened stick. That is by far the most common arrowhead of all. What is the least common arrowhead? The stone. What is the mid-range? Bone and antler and stones that can be ground down to shape, like slate. In areas where like slate is common, the arrowheads are common, made of that material. The arrowheads made of that material are common, more common than the other type. Okay, more common than the stone. So first off, there's the wood is the most common, and the next common is the stuff you can grind down, either slate or bone or antler or whatever. And then the least common are the stone, as far as numbers. Now, as far as popularity, what is the most popular of the arrowheads? Is, the studies and the displays and the culture. It's the stone. It's the opposite. That confuses new people also. The rarest, not only is stone the rarest type of arrowhead, but the rarest stone arrowheads receive the most attention, but they are the least common of all arrowheads in any collection anywhere in the world. But they receive the most attention. So it's completely upside down. Okay? As far as the difference, when you're looking at what is the most common and what is the most popular, it's completely flipped. So just be aware of that. Sometimes it's good to know that, especially if you're into replicating the past and you want to know what the ancestors did and how they hunted and what they used for weapons. You may be surprised that they hunted and used mostly wood-tipped stuff for their tools, for hunting and for warfare, for the most amount of time. Now, as it gets more recent, they use a lot more stone because the technology is more widespread. It becomes more widespread with increases in populations and all that. It's easier to communicate if there's a lot of people around that can spread it around. If you're highly isolated, technologies are difficult to spread because the technologies stay isolated. And it's very easy to come up with a sharp stick. That wheel can be reinvented easily every so often. Okay, if they lose the ability to make, let's say bone arrowheads, if they lose the interest or the ability to make those, they go back to sticks, and eventually go back to bone or whatever. But it's slow if you're isolated. But if you're around a lot of people and they've preserved the traditions, or you have prodigies that pick up stones and reinvent the wheel as far as stone arrowheads, you get back into making stone easily, even if it's lost for a while. But you need lots of people. So there's a correlation between increase in population and the increase in the stone arrowhead technology or stone tool technology. Both because stone tools are useful for defending defending your area of influence, and also because it can be taught between people and shared, and it can be considered a way to make a living by teaching people how to do this. Yeah, I think the people were actually supported as nappers if they were teaching others. As long as you're teaching others how to do it, they'll support you with food and stuff. Food, shelter, clothing, etc. This particular piece of hornstone or whatever it is not good. This is a low grade, so I'm going to have some trouble thinning it down. But luckily, I'm not making these super thin. Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of crackly, steppy areas. These bifaces are all different grades of very similar material in terms of where it's from and the composition of it and the color and all that, but it's not that similar in grade and how well it naps, how well these long flakes can be installed upon it. Okay. It might be strange to think of installing flakes onto the surface, or installing these flake scars might be a strange way of looking at it. Yeah. But that's what it feels like. It feels like I'm installing whatever happens. If it's a good flake, or a bad flake, or a stiff fracture, it's all being installed. And it's not perfect. The job is not perfect. There's an element of chance. That's the other thing I was thinking about. Flintknapping is a lot different in that respect because it's an activity that requires risk management. So it's different from other crafts. There's risk management involved in it. So when trying to figure out why they did certain things, you have to not ignore the chance or the luck involved. You may not understand why they did that certain thing, right? But if you look at, well, maybe it was just chance, you go, okay, that might be a reason why it looks that way. It's just bad luck or good luck, and not intent. And of course, skill level is something else. You may have an intent of making a very nice arrowhead or whatever, and you're new. Your intent is good, but you come up with a little almond instead of a nice, long, thin, beautifully flaked arrowhead. Your intent is to make a nice, long, thin, beautifully napped arrowhead, and all you get is a little almond with cruddy step fractures all the way around it. Now, if you nap a cruddy little almond with step fractures, was that your intent? Because archaeologists these days think, yeah, that's your intent, because the result is that you've got an almond with step fractures. That's your intent. You know, if you extend the logic to everything, That's what it means. And then they might say, well, no, we only use that logic on finished nice pieces. Yeah. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If it's finished in nice, if it's finished in a nice way, it looks beautiful, then that was your intent. But if it's cruddy and all that, then it may or may not be your intent. Yeah, okay. It may or may not be your intent regardless if it's nice or not nice. You know, somebody with low amount of skill or relatively low compared to other nappers can produce a beautiful arrowhead. He didn't really intend to create something like that because it was luck. I mean, it looks like he intended to do it, but he will be the first to admit, yeah, that I got really lucky with that particular piece. My intent was just to, you know, create one on at my skill level. But I ended up creating something much better. By happenstance. Which is fine. You know. He can claim that, yeah, everything that you see there was intentionally on purpose and blah, blah, blah. But you don't know for sure. But if you're honest with yourself and you look at the point and you go, this came out a lot better than my usual, that means there was some luck involved or fortuitous happenstance. It's not necessarily your intent to create something that beautiful. It just worked out well. If you're honest with yourself, yeah, you'll admit to that. In some cases, some rare cases, yeah. I've had cases myself where I go, man, that worked out much better than I thought. Yeah, that's what that means. So the moral of the story is you can't reliably determine the intent of the napper by the result that he gets. In flint napping. Now in other crafts, yes, you can, because there's very little risk involved. There's no risk management. There's no real effect from luck. Like if you're making a bone arrowhead, you can pretty much grind it down to whatever shape you want without worrying about luck interfering with the shape. You know, the only thing that's limiting you there is the skill. So it doesn't take that long to become skilled at doing bone arrowheads. So we can assume that the skill is picked up pretty quickly, and then your intent is shown relatively well with something like bone. Very little risk management. And the skill isn't that difficult. Relatively speaking, compared to working stone. But you won't know that unless you start working stone. You might think that working bone and working stone, you know, pretty much the same thing. You're just making an arrowhead. That's it. Yeah. I make these funny voices so that I can come up with dialogue, so I'm hoping it sounds like somebody else. When I'm making those funny voices, I get a kick out of some people that think that I talk that way. Or I'm talking that way for another reason besides just trying to create a dialogue Mm-hmm. Anyway. They want to make fun of me and make fools of themselves. It's called self-incrimination. Let them do it. Yeah. I like free speech because it allows people to self-incriminate and make fools out of themselves. Me included. Yeah. I can make a fool out of myself. Free speech allows you to see who the fools are. If you limit it, if you don't like hearing what the fools are saying and you say you can't say that, well, then you're preventing them from self-incriminating. Does that make sense? It's almost like you're protecting them from showing us how stupid they are. Yeah. Is that what you want? I like it when people say whatever they want, because then you know who's who. You know what they are up to. You don't want to force them to do stuff in secret. Who's doing it? I don't know, because we can't see what they normally talk about. We don't know who's doing it. Everyone seems nice. Who's doing the bad stuff when everyone's talking nice things? It doesn't stop the bad stuff from happening. All it does is it stops us from knowing who's saying bad stuff that's being censored. Yeah, I mention that because it comes into the realm of teaching things like how we did things in the past, who we are as creatures, as living things. There are narratives that are discouraged. Speech is censored in the area of discussing who we are as living creatures. Yeah. And how our brains developed and what these things were used for. In a lot of the archaeological literature, they don't discuss the fact that many of these things, these fancy stone arrow points, were used for warfare. If they see something fancy, they think, oh, ceremonial. They don't think warfare. They don't think ritual torture. Like, this is a gruesome thing to think about, but they would torture prisoners by shooting arrows at them, tying them up to a post and shooting arrows at them. Maybe they made special arrowheads just for that. You don't know. But it was done. Yep. We do have documented cases where that happened in a historical context. So we know at least it happened sometimes, but we don't know exactly every reason why these things were made the way they were made and made so carefully. Some of them were made so delicately that they will break. There's like a 99% chance that they will break upon hitting a target. Now, that's not useful for hunting, but it's useful for warfare. Yeah. It's not useful in the procurement of food, but it is useful in the causing pain and suffering to the enemy. But it's not discussed. Many times it's censored. We don't talk about that stuff. We don't talk about that stuff, they'll say. The good thing is, there are articles and studies on subjects related to the psychology behind some of these tools. What kind of mind, what kind of psychology, or what kind of mind would create something like this? A tool that can cause great pain and suffering. What kind of mind does that? Well, human mind, yes, but what kind of human mind, and how ancient is it to be sadistic? Is it part of our nature, or is it part of culture? That sort of thing. You got to discuss it in order to figure out what it is. There has to be a conversation. You can't censor that conversation, because it's a possibility that some of these things are just made by sadistic warriors. Yeah. Some of these, not all. And a lot of these were used for dual purpose or solely for hunting. Yeah, there's some beautiful hunting points. Ishi the Indian would make beautiful hunting points. Yeah. But he also made beautiful points for warfare. And the most delicate, most difficult points of all that he made were made for warfare. So we know that at least there's one case. Where that's a fact. Yeah, I need to go get my books from my storage unit in New Hampshire so I can give you the source. Because some people will say, okay, what's the source for that? What is it? I need to see it in print. Yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah, you need to see it in print. You need to see proof. That's fine. I will provide it to people here on my channel. Because most people here on my channel, YouTube says most of you guys are new, but I got a feeling that, I don't know, you that watch most of the video instead of the first, minute or two are regulars. So I'll give you the information because, I know you. You regularly comment and all that kind of stuff. So I'll give you the sources for all this. But I got to get my books so I can give you the page number. Because you'll be looking forever if I just give you the book name. Yeah. And sometimes I can't remember where in the book it is. I got to look it up. Where are the arrowheads that Ishi used to shoot at people? Yeah, I need to look at the book and see where does it say that. Because he would shoot arrows at settlers. And it was by coincidence that one of those settlers, well, maybe not settlers all the time, but there were various people in the area, in the territory where he lived. Not all of them were settlers. He would just shoot at invaders of some sort. They were there for some reason, and by coincidence, he shot at a man that eventually would document a lot of his life before they knew each other. I think that he got shot at least once. I don't know. I gotta look it up. What kind of arrowheads was he using? What kind of arrowheads was Ishi using to shoot at people? Yeah, I'll show you a picture when I get the book, if I remember to show you. Yeah. You know, a lot of plants have a defense that if you like thorns, if you get stuck with a thorn, it has continuous side effects. It's a self-defense feature to have a continuous side effect from the initial contact, like with a cactus spine. There's residual effects. Part of it gets broken off, or something gets in there, stays in there, just like arrowheads. If you get hit. If you wander into a territory and the territory is new to you, and you get shot by an arrow, and then you try to pull it out, you pull out most of it, but you still got some stuck in there, that's going to bug you. It might bug you for the rest of your life, and you say, I'm not going to go into that area. I got an arrow stuck in my knee, and there's still a piece of something in there, and there's a big bulge, and I can't dig it out, and there's a big knot on my knee, and I don't have full motion anymore. I'm not going in that area because those Indians over there are shooting nasty arrowheads. That sort of thing. So yeah, it's an effective deterrent to come up with some of these arrowheads that will break in the wound. Oh yes. But, there's very few studies and articles and all that discuss that aspect. Why? Well, sometimes it's because of censoring. Yeah. And I know a lot of us don't want to hear... I don't really want to hear studies on sadism or that sort of use of the stone. I'd rather believe in the nobility of the hunter culture, and not the warfare aspect. That sort of thing. Yeah, I get it. I made this base way too small. Dang. It's supposed to be more bulbous than this. What happened? I think it's because I didn't want to have difficulty with the notching. Yeah, this needs to, we'll see. I'll just finish this out. The base is supposed to be more bulbous than this, as far as I know. Or the stem, I should say. A lot of times I use the term stem and base interchangeably. Not supposed to. Anyway, the moral of the story with the censorship thing. If you encounter people who prefer to follow a certain narrative, just be aware they usually will guide you to a narrative that's more science fiction than it is truth. Because science fiction is much more attractive. Yeah. Oh, yes. Come on. I stalled that one really, really bad. I'm going to have to, let's see. I'm going to have to change this up entirely. Yeah. Well, maybe not. Let's see if I can sneak up on it. This kind of thing can be avoided by pre-planning to avoid it. I wasn't really paying attention. I was doing more talking than being in the zone. I knew that this was going to be hard to nap, so I should have thinned it more to begin with instead before I was doing this notching thing. Before I did the these are technically notches, but they're not what we normally consider to be a notch, but you can prepare for them as well. These indentations, you can prepare ahead of time so that you won't have trouble with these indentations. And I did not do it. I figured, I can just take care of it as I'm working it. Shape it and all that at the same time. Shape it and thin it and work these problem areas all at the same time. But it did not work out well. There, I got most of it off. But the stem does not look like I wanted it to look. Let's see, what's the width? Yeah, I still got some room. I can probably still get it symmetrical. Yeah, let's try that. Yeah, I can still make it look symmetrical. It might not be a total loss. Hold on. I was going to move on to a different one. But hold on. I might be able to do this. And still be within spec. Because it's got to be about 1 inch wide. Because that was the original parameters of the project. For me. They don't have to be perfect. I just like to keep them consistent. Overall, it makes it easier. Once I get the hang of it, I can just go with the flow on these, but I want to make some of them consistent. So I don't have to think about it too much. Yeah, I don't have to think about it too much when I just go with the flow. But these need to resemble actual archaeological types. That's part of the parameter. I want to make stuff that could conceivably be archaeological types for this particular project. Why don't I tell you what the project is? Well, because this project is a gift. I don't want to This is not for profit. This is a gift. Yeah. But I want to get it on video because it could be useful for some people when they're trying to make things to spec and they want to know how difficult it is to do spec work. It's not easy. It can be extremely frustrating. It can take up all your time when you should be doing something else. So you gotta weigh the priorities. If the priorities are good, then it's worth it. Some people might be thinking, I want a gift. You do gifts? I want one. I don't do them often, okay? I used to do them a lot more often. I don't do them that much anymore. I'm trying to prioritize. I could be doing gifts all day, every day, like I used to. Can't do it no more. All right. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to try to run a flake through that area. This is dicey. I don't know if I'll be able to. Yep. Not yet. I got to make it more narrow. They're not going anywhere. These flakes. That worries me. You know, I'm trying to get rid of this lump here from this side. Technically, I don't need to get rid of that lump, but it would be nice if I could. I tried to pick off that little area with pushing on the front of that step fracture, but it didn't work. The stone is too tough. So I'm trying to get it from this other side, but apparently it's not going to cooperate. I'm going to force it a little bit, and if it's not going to do it, then I'll just stop. It's still within range even if I constrict it. Still within range of the real type. Of the actual archaeological type. Come on. Yeah, this worries me that if it's not going to cooperate with the pressure flaking, it might not cooperate with this next strike, this percussion strike. I gotta hit it extremely hard, and this is the stage where it can't be hit really hard because it's at the final stage. I should not be hitting it extremely hard at the final stage because it invites trouble. So don't try this at home, boys and girls, because I know you will. I know you'll try it. A lot of times you'll get to the end and you'll say, I need to do one more thing so it can look right. Yeah, I know you. I tried, but that's it. I'm not going to go any further. I tried to send a flake in through there, but it's not going to work. Why don't I get Nacho? Let's get Nacho to try it. I'm afraid to use this because it's very powerful. This is like the secret weapon. Everyone clears out. Wait, don't do it yet. Make way, make way. Get to safe distance. Yeah. Fire in the hole. Take cover. Here we go. Fire in the hole. Yeah, it's not going to do it. I'm afraid to put too much. If I wind up a lot, if I do a big strike, it'll dive into this. I know it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to clean it up and call it good. And then, I could use it as a pattern later if I don't want to send it off. I can just use it as a pattern, or if it doesn't really matter too much, I'll just send it off. If it ends up looking okay, if I can live with it to my own standard, yeah. My standards aren't that high. I've been known to just say, yeah, that's good. That's good enough. I don't do that very often on video because it's disappointing to some people if I quit too soon. Oh, that's good. And I go, no, you could have done it better. I know, I seen you. You did it better before. I'm disappointed. Disappointed. They won't say that, but you know how it goes. Most people are too polite to say that they get disappointed, but they end up not liking the video, or they unlike it because he didn't do it. It didn't get done. I'm not gonna like it. I get it. Yeah, YouTube likes the likes. They like the likes. If you get lots of likes, they like it. And YouTube will promote your video. Now, see, this looks a little bit too narrow for me, but I'm going to leave it. Yeah. Does it fit well into an arrow fore shaft? Where are they? Sneaky. Where are you? Sneakies. Alright. Here they are. I get them all because it's easier for me to keep track of if I just keep them all together. Does it go into this one? Yeah. Kind of, sort of. Still too fat, but I guess that's good. You know, if it was a real one, you want it kind of fat there so it won't snap easily. Yeah, next one I'm making is going to have a wider stem. Although it meets the criteria for the arrow foreshaft width. Yeah. These are typical arrow foreshaft dimensions. Over the years I've come up with some averages. I'll show you my drawings when I get them back. They're in my storage unit. Yeah, you mount it like that and just wrap it. You can wrap up on the blade a little bit with cross hatchings. You can make it go further. You can seat it further down in the notch and make the wood go up higher on the blade if you want. You know, it's up to you. There's no real archaeological surviving examples to go by. So you got to kind of, you know, we'll make do with what we got. We got our imaginations. Yeah. That's a very deep notch. And it's possible that they could have made the notches really, really deep for this type of arrowhead. The easiest arrowhead notch is this one right here. And a lot of arrowheads were notched with, hafted or put into notches that are that shallow. Oh, yes. Yeah, okay. It works. It's within range, probably. Yeah. All right, so there you go. I'm still going to make some with the stem wider. And if I run out of time, I'm going to send this off with other ones and just make them all look the same. You know, if you start wide and you got to make them all look the same, you can always reduce the other ones down to match this one. I can always reduce the other ones down to match this one if I make them wider. All right. Okay. There you go. That's it.